Hello and welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast. I am your host, Blake Morgan. My guest today on the show is Mike Marcellin. He is the Senior Vice President and CMO at Juniper. Mike leads the global marketing team responsible for marketing Juniper's product and services portfolio and stewarding the brand, driving preference for Juniper in the market, training its partners and sales teams, and developing a differentiated digital experience for its customers. Prior to joining Juniper in 2010, Mike served as a vice president of global managed solutions for Verizon. Today, Mike and I are talking about a guided B2B buying experience, a blend of digital, self-service, and sales supported. I know you will enjoy our conversation. Let's go. Mike, welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast. How is your day going in Los Gatos, California?
Going great, Blake. It's good to see you. Doing well.
So good to see you. It's been an interesting 3 years for everybody in the business world. It's been a good time for customer experience, and it's been a really good time for companies that are comfortable with digital customer experiences. Can you just talk about what you've been up to in the last 3 years, leading marketing strategy for Juniper, and what's changed as opposed to when you were leading pre-COVID?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, obviously, yeah, the world has changed for sure in so many different ways. And, I think probably accelerated a journey that we were already on, to be honest. I think at Juniper, we have some very large competitors who in some ways will always be able to outspend us. So we have to have, better engagement approach. And ultimately, I think we need to outsmart them. In how we approach working with our customers. And so, really our journey has been about creating a variety of different digital touch points. The term I like to use is that experience is the new product.
Mm-hmm.
And, basically coming from a technology company, a product-based company, that's a big revelation for us to say, wait a second, products are great. You have to have great products. But really, how you engage with customers, how they perceive you as a company, the people that they work with, and how they even perceive in the experience from the products becomes the most important thing. And so that's really what we've been investing in over the last few years. Our company tagline is driven by experience. So we've really taken it to heart. It truly is our true north to provide that differentiated experience to our customers.
So Mike, your company and I worked together during COVID to do a virtual event. I remember interviewing people like the CTO of British Telecom and hearing about what the role is of your product. My understanding is that you help provide the network from these major telecoms, which is a really critical product. But for our audience listening and watching, can you describe what it is that you sell and who you sell to?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Probably, so Juniper is about 25 years old. We first started when the World Wide Web was just getting off the ground, and it was buckling under the growth of traffic and all the businesses coming onto the web and all of that. So our first set of customers were those big telecom operators, the big ISPs, and we were essentially the infrastructure that is the internet backbone. So if you think about the little router you have in your house to connect your home internet, think about that, but much, much larger with much more scale. And since then, we've broadened into kind of powering the similar infrastructure for big data centers and cloud environments, as well as security, which is so important now to everything we do from a networking perspective. So those are the products that we sell. And over the past handful of years, as you said, telecom operators, the network is their business. So there's no confusion among them about how important we are to them. But what you've seen, interestingly, over the last 5, 6, 7 years is almost every other enterprise in all industries recognize the importance of digital. They are transforming their own operations and their own way that they engage with their customers. So the products and solutions that we have now are not just the purview of the big telcos and cloud providers, but every single enterprise around the world who sees that their network and securing that network is of paramount importance to their business.
Seems like this would be a hard product to sell, to say the least. It's an expensive product, I would imagine. It is complicated. How do you find those buyers? And again, is your buyer the CTO?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, it's usually the CTO or the CIO, depending on the company and how they're kind of constructed. And so it's that IT organization, and they're looking to scale. They're looking to provide great experiences to their employees. If the employees show up to work and the network's not working, that's kind of a productivity killer. But increasingly also to their end users. Their website needs to be up because many companies conduct millions or billions of dollars over their website. How they engage in customer service, which now you're seeing kind of omni-channel customer service. The network is at the heart of that. And so it's really become mission critical to every single business. But you're right, the IT folks know us. Some of the buying centers are growing. So some of the lines of business, that recognize that, hey, the network is critical to how we engage with our customers, start to become more influential. But yeah, the IT organization is the core of who we typically sell to.
All right, so let's talk about a blended buyer journey. What does that mean to you?
Well, that's a great question. And that's something that we're seeing as increasingly as an opportunity for us. So, I think we've all heard in B2B the stats about how, people, get 50, 60% down the buying journey before they ever engage a salesperson. And of course, the truth is it's not truly linear. It's not as if they go 60% and then it's like, okay, now I'll engage. But they are absolutely getting information from certainly the company's website, but from third-party websites, from their peers, from industry analysts, from just a variety of different sources. So the notion that we can control that buyer's journey, as maybe we used to 20 years ago, that's gone. And so what that means is we need to be ready to engage with the right kinds of information through the right channels whenever they're ready to engage with us. So they may come to our website before wanting to really deal with the person, or maybe they have a relationship with one of our salespeople and that's where they start. And so what we're in the process of doing now is transforming that experience on our website, giving them a variety of different content types, whether it's, immersive video for thought leadership to very hardworking, data sheets about our products, if that's where they are in the journey. And wanting to do that all throughout the journey. And if they go, offline and wanted to work with the salesperson, we need to know what they did online. And similarly, if they come online and are expecting to engage with us, it's super helpful for us to know what interactions they've had with Juniper people. And so making sure that hand in glove journey from digital to people and back and forth is as seamless as possible. So we've architected that buying journey as best as we can define it, but we also know it's got to be very, very kind of flexible with how they want to engage with us at any moment in time.
Understood. And when we think about the blended buyer journey, it seems to me the first thing to understand is what you just said, Mike, that you are not in control of the buyer's journey anymore. It is not linear. It is a bit all over the place. So what advice would you have for other B2B CMOs listening that are at the very beginning of realizing they're not in control? They have to create a blended buyer journey. And how do you even start to create a roadmap for that?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's certainly something. I mean, we certainly haven't cracked the code entirely. But I would tell you that when I started as the CMO here, I made two big bets. One was on data, and that includes hiring a team of data scientists. That means really making sure that we understand as much as we possibly can about our buyer, about where they're getting influence, about where they are in the journey, about what they need from us. And again, because everything's gone digital, that means there's data everywhere, as which we all know. But the challenge is if you don't know how to make sense of that and harness that, then it's worthless to you. So let's get grounded in data. And then the second big bet was around, I'll call it MarTech, marketing technology, kind of the tech stack that we now use from our website to the tools that we use to understand buyer intent, to how we engage with customers individually and at an account level. So there's so many different tools out there. You really got to get your arms around what tools are going to work for you to give you that complete view of the customer, and to allow you to quickly zig and zag when they come in, maybe in an unexpected place, or take their own journey in a different direction. Again, you need to be able to support what they're looking for at any moment in time.
Right. So you're talking about leads, you're talking about data. How closely do you work with the other leaders at Juniper? And would you just describe how you share data and how you collaborate with the other leaders that impact what you do and you impact what they do?
Absolutely. And that's been an essential, I think, element of what I think is a successful customer engagement strategy. So we have a corporate-wide customer experience initiative. And when I say that, what that means is, we do OKRs, lots of companies do whatever kind of KPIs or OKRs, and we have three primary objectives at the company level. One of those three is creating a differentiated and remarkable customer experience. So that tells you the level of importance that we place on that. And so as part of that, pretty much every single function has some skin in the game on making that successful. And we each have our own OKRs about our part of the customer journey and the role we play in creating that amazing customer experience. And then how we manage that is through, I'd say, pretty rigorous governance, which sounds super kind of corporate and bureaucratic, but really it just means we've got our set of objectives. We get together pretty frequently and look at all elements of the customer experience, where we need to make progress, what's maybe not working how we intended, and then also just making sure that we all know what each is doing, because there's so many different touch points that if we're all running off in our own directions, maybe even if we're all doing good things, if it's not coordinated, the customer's going to see that it's not coordinated. So I'd say that's really been the key to our success. We don't have a chief customer officer, someone in name that is just tasked with that. So really it comes down to our head of global customer service and support, marketing, certainly our sales organization, and many of the support functions that go along with all of those areas. So being super coordinated, looking at the data, looking at that experience, and then making adjustments when we need to.
Something I've been interested in lately is just measurement, how we measure success. And I've had the pleasure of interviewing the creator of Net Promoter Score a few times, Fred Reichelt, and he has this new metric out called earned growth rate. And basically what he says is that the customers you get through word of mouth are very much more valuable than customers you would acquire through traditional marketing. They spend more money, while those customers you acquire through like Super Bowl ads and billboards actually can cause damage to the brand. They spend less money, they're less loyal. Has that been your experience as far as the value of the customers, the more valuable ones being referrals?
Well, I certainly, it's an interesting kind of juxtaposition. Are they less valuable if you acquire them through other means? I will tell you, one thing's for sure, that people trust, quote, people they know, people they trust. So that's referrals. That means, if I'm a CIO in this company, I am in a CIO community and I know other CIOs, their opinions, their direction, their experience with Juniper or anyone else is going to weigh pretty heavily on making that decision. So I would say that is absolutely at the top of the list. And certainly that's why we believe it's so critical to have customer communities. We have communities by industry, and we've really invested a lot in that, as much for the benefit of those that are a part of the community as it is to us. We love being a fly on the wall when 10 healthcare CIOs get together and start talking about their big challenges, because that's gold for us, but it's also gold for them to give them a forum and a platform, even if they're not talking about Juniper, just like to compare notes and to see what what's working for them and the challenges that they face. So yeah, creating those forums is another way that we can provide value beyond just, hey, we have great products, go buy our products. We're giving you a forum to engage with your industry peers and to solve the challenges that you're facing every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find with this industry in particular, they're so hungry. Executives are so hungry to share information because it is hard to find good content, at least from a customer experience perspective. Do you do a lot of information seeking yourself from other marketing thought leadership firms or other CMOs on customer experience, or how have you acquired your wealth of knowledge?
Yeah, I'm in actually one forum specifically for CMOs. It's a global forum of some top CMOs So that's just always a great calibration. When you think man, I'm facing this challenge, can anyone else be facing this? And then you find out that half the other people are and can give you some good guidance and thoughts. So that's one. And then I actually am involved in another forum specifically around customer experience with some chief customer officers. As I said, we don't have someone in that title per se, but I'm able to be a part of that because of certainly the role that marketing plays in creating a great customer experience is huge. So just being able to see how some very large companies and some smaller companies think about how they do customer experience, think about how they measure it, to your point, just getting all those learnings. Again, I don't know that anyone has cracked the code, but there's some really good work going on. So learning from other leaders is hugely valuable to me.
I imagine that a lot of our listeners and viewers are tuning in because they're interested in what it's like to be a marketing leader at a complicated tech company. It's not an easy product that you sell. You have to create the language for it. You have to be at the right place at the right time. How do you even begin to sketch out the vision for the communicating the value of the product, doing it in the right channels? What tools have you used to be successful in drawing that whole vision and image for how the product can change the world for these customers?
Yeah, what a great question, Blake. And it is a challenge, I will tell you, because the interesting thing is, for us, our experience has been that when we get engaged with someone and when they start to use our technology, then we have I'd say, if you will, a lower level conversation, a more detailed, like, here's all the great bits and bobs of the technology. But to get to that point, you were probably many years in the journey, because when we show up on the doorstep of a Fortune 500 company that maybe we're not working with, they first want to know, why should I even be talking to you? I have typically what we have, the solutions that we have, they already have something in place today. They have a Wi-Fi network, they have a security infrastructure, they have a data center, they have those things. Rarely, sometimes you'll get a greenfield, but generally they have something. And so really it's first, why should I even be working with Juniper? And that's where I talked about this maniacal focus on customer experience, because I think that actually cuts above the, here's what my, device does or my software can do for you. We'll get to that conversation, hopefully. But really it's about, we have a different approach. We're thinking about, your experience of both the people that run the network as well as the end users who are leveraging the network. And that's actually a really interesting starting point, because when you come to a CIO and you say, we're able to reduce trouble tickets on networks by over 90% with our AI technology. Like, oh, well, that's interesting. What if my team had 90% of their time back and wasn't just chasing Wi-Fi tickets, but actually able to think about what's around the corner or adding more value to the business? That's a different level of conversation, and one that generally will get the C-suite interested. And then once you have them interested, then you start working with their teams, and then you start doing your, here's what our products do versus other products. Here's where we have advantages. And you have to have the technology team fall in love with your product. So having those two altitudes has really been fundamental to our success.
Mike, as a leader, do you think that understanding and saying that your product is a commodity, is that something you guys talk about? Because I know that requires quite a bit of humility to say, hey, our product, there are other people that make our product. How are we going to elevate the experience to be different?
Yeah, look, I think if you had one of our engineers on the line today, they would tell you the 10 reasons why our product's not a commodity and why we do this better, this is more unique, whatever. And look, there's some truth to that. We have real proof points on how we built a better mousetrap in many cases. But I think, to your point, because everyone is using something, even if our something is 10% better, you still have to explain to them why even that 10 or 20% better is worth the disruption of change. Because there's, no matter what, changing from one technology or one vendor to another, there's some level of disruption, there's some level of risk. So I have to believe that what's on the other side is so much better that maybe there's some technology differences, maybe the price is competitive or even better, but there has to be something more. And so I think, if anything, that acknowledgement has pushed us harder and to really come up and crystallize what it means to work with Juniper. Beyond just our product details, what it means to work with us, how we're different than the competition, how we're going to surround our customers to make sure they're successful. And so that, I think, it just pushes us. And then, like I said, hopefully we get to the technology conversation and we can give you, the deep dive into why it's better. And that's with the networking teams who are going to run our stuff through its paces. But you're never going to get to that conversation if you haven't, kind of did the why should I even be thinking about a different vendor, a different answer.
So, Mike, part of a leader's job is to obviously deliver the strategy that's necessary now, but it's also to keep your eye on the future and the horizon. So, I would be interested to hear what some of the trends are that you're interested in for the future of marketing at Juniper.
Yeah. Well, I touched on one that I think is interesting. It's interesting because it's part of our product portfolio, but it's certainly across many, many more areas, and that's AI and ML, where everyone's thinking about, okay, how do I use this? Is it really going to move the ball forward? Do I have a concern about what it's going to do to jobs? I mean, there's so many different elements of that. But make no mistake, I think, optimizing operations and optimizing, in our case, end user experiences through AI is a way to provide a better solution, and one that, again, will free up teams to focus on what they really want to focus on. So that's a big one. And we're also starting to leverage it within the marketing discipline as well. How do we really anticipate buyer needs? How do we coordinate and kind of cross hatch of the data that we have to make some decisions, or at least to reach out to the customer at the right time? So I think that's an interesting space to watch. One of the other ones that I would say is important to us from a marketing perspective, from a company perspective, and from a world perspective is sustainability. And being in the IT industry, obviously we, like so many others, are part of the problem. I mean, the good news is our products have become so much more power efficient over the years. The bad news, if you want to look at it this way, is the demand for data and bandwidth and all the things that we facilitate continues to grow unabated. So the demand is there. We're trying to keep up with that by creating more sustainable solutions. But I think, as we all know, this is going to become a conversation that is going to continue to be quite active and quite urgent over the coming few years. We actually just made an announcement earlier this year that we're going to be carbon neutral for our own operations by 2025, which was an aggressive statement to make, but one that I feel really proud of, that we're able to lead our industry along those lines. And I think ultimately our customers, we see this, the number of RFPs that customers are coming to us every single year saying, what are you doing around sustainability? Give us your targets, give us your progress against those targets. If we think very broadly about your passion around customer experience, this is going to become an element of that. And we want to make sure that we're in the right leadership position to do the right things for the planet, but also to make sure we're helping our customers meet their climate goals.
That's very exciting. And actually, after the podcast, we can talk about a company I'm a part of now that is helping the utilities industry transform in light of this and electrification. All right, so now is time for the fun part, the rapid fire. Mike, are you ready to take these rapid fire questions?
I don't know. Am I? Let's do it. Let's give it a shot.
We'll find out. All right, you are stuck on an island. You have access to water. You can bring one other food and one other drink. What are they?
Okay. The food is pizza, and you get it with everything, so that every day you could pick some toppings off and you'd have different variety every single day. I've thought about this one. Drink. So I have water, so I'm good on the hydration. So then it's just something, maybe something light and fruity, because at least for the first month it would be fun, and then it would get to be bad. But we'll go with that.
Okay, awesome. If you could have lunch with anybody, dead or alive, who would it be?
Prince.
Oh, okay, cool.
My
Great.
favorite artist, gone too soon, but
Yeah.
he was an amazing musician.
Absolutely. What is one tool or resource you use to get through during COVID for self-development?
Oh, self-development, as opposed to all the hours wasted binging shows. Good question. I may have to self-development. I mean, I certainly found myself, more engaged with an industry conversation because you're staring at your computer all the time. So engaging in, we talked a little bit about kind of CXO forums and stuff. Luckily, a lot of them came with a mixologist or a wine tasting, but I tell you, that worked because you really got to have some great conversations with people that you might not otherwise see because you had to trudge across town to go to a dinner at 6:30 and fight traffic. Now you just flip your laptop up in your kitchen and you're talking to industry peers. So I'd say that kind of engagement mechanism has been really valuable for me personally, and then for us as a company and engaging with our customers too.
Absolutely. And you might have an easy answer to this next one because you've already sort of mentioned it, but what is the greatest musician or band of all time?
Well, yeah, I'd have to say Prince on that one. So prolific and so varied over so much time. So, yeah,
Absolutely. What is your most embarrassing work moment?
man. Um, well, okay, this is going way back. This is literally my first day. I started right out of college with Price Waterhouse Consulting. Now it's PwC. It was Price Waterhouse then. And your first day, you're thinking about all these things. You got all these things you have to go do, and blah blah blah. And I left the house with my fly down. So I think I caught it pretty quickly, but that could have been because you've got so much else in your mind. You're not doing the very basic things.
Yep, happens to everybody. Can't just does. All right, well, Mike, this has been really fun, and I'm so glad we got to chat. And if people want to learn more about Juniper or you, where can they do that?
www.juniper.net.
All right.
And I'm on LinkedIn as well.
All right, great. Well, thank you for joining me. All of you have been tuning into the Modern Customer Podcast. If you have time, leave me a review on Apple so more people can find this growing show. And until next time, thanks.